What happens if your pension goes bankrupt? Interesting, huh? So we're going to talk about this. I think this is a future topic that needs to be examined some because some of these budgets are in a world of hurt. So let's dive into this. This is PBGC, our Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, and we're going to go to About PBGC, and we're going to see there's Pablo. Okay. Since 1974, under the ERISA Act, the Employee Retirement Income Securities Act, the PBGC has protected retirement security and the retirement incomes of over 35 million American workers. Rest assured, we're committed to helping our customers during this important time. We're passionate about delivering the highest level customer. Okay, gotcha. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at, was that the home page? There it goes. Go to home. Right here. Our goal, okay, we're talking about 35 million. What are you looking for? I want to go to this one right here. PBGC to pay for McClatchy Company workers and retirees. McClatchy. Okay. So right here, we're going to read this immediate press release. PBGC has assumed the responsibility for the McClatchy Company retirement plans, which covers 24,000 current and retiree and future retirees. The California-based newspaper publisher operates 30 media companies in 14 states. PBGC's mission is to protect the retirement security of millions of workers. And that's exactly what we spent months doing in the McClatchy bankruptcy. By assuming responsibility for the plan, we are securing the benefits of the participants. All right. The agency estimates that 57% of the McClatchy's plan was funded with approximately $1.3 billion in assets, yet $2.3 billion in liabilities. It's underfunded by about $1 billion. Sheesh, not good. That's not good. PBG has stepped in to terminate the pension plan and become a statutory trustee to protect the interests of the participants. It was effective on August 31st, 2020. On February 13th, McClatchy went bankrupt. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see. All right, here. PBG protects retirement security both single employer and multi-employer private sector pension plans. Private sector pension plans. The agency's two insurance programs are legally separate and operational financially independent. PBGC is currently responsible for the benefits of about 1.5 million people in failed pension and receives no taxpayer funds. No taxpayers funds. So basically 1.5 million people are in the PBGC now, and you're going to add another 24,000 because of McClatchy. So, all right, so let's take a look. I want to show you something here. Legal limits. Let's go to the legal limits of what you could expect if you go into PBGC. All right, so what we do is we go down here and we say, okay, PBG's maximum monthly guarantees for 2020. And here you got a single straight life annuity just on old Josh, depending on how old I am. This is the maximum amount. And here's a 2020 joint and 50% survivor annuity. So if I die, my wife gets this right here. So essentially what's happening is a 50% joint life survivor annuity. I will get 15,903, and then Charlotte gets half that. That's what I should have said. So Charlotte gets half this. If it's just based on my own age, or without Charlotte as a beneficiary, I get 17,670. If it's based on a 50% life survivor benefit, I get 15,903, and Charlotte gets that. That's the maximum for a 75-year-old. Now, most people are going to retire probably say 60 to 65. So the maximum straight life benefit you're going to get from a PBGC annuity if you're 60 years old is $3,700. That's it, or $3,400 if it's a 50% survivor benefit. All right, so the maximum. I'm telling you, I've dealt with United Airlines and other airlines pilots, and they thought they're getting $7,000 to $8,000. No, they're getting the maximum. The maximum is based on their age. So if you're 65 years old when you got mandatory retirement for airline pilots, the maximum you're going to get is $5,800. The maximum. And if you do a 50% survivor benefit, it's going to be $5,200. Now, that's for private pensions, all right? That's private pensions. So if you're in McClatchy and you're, one of the top, the big earnings guys, and you have a pension of $10,000 a month and you're 65, you're not getting $10,000 a month. You're just not. Sorry, but that's the way it works. So let's go into public pensions. Hold on just a second. Governing.com, who talks about the states, how are pensions protected state by state. Pensions, both public and private, start out as a worker's perk, a gratuity that could be amended or removed entirely at any time. But over the last century, that perception has given away, in most states, the idea that pensions are a form of guarantee or a form of deferred compensation. Essentially, we're not taking the money now, we're going to take it later, and we expect it to be there. Thus, we expect it to be guaranteed. Although along with that changes come some certain protections via specifically in state constitutions or through a court's interpretation of the Constitution. Nearly all states have some form of protection for pensions. Most, 41, protect pensions under contract theory, which prohibits states from passing laws that impairs a contract, whether public or private. Some states, 7, have a constitutional provision that specifically states that public pension plans create a contract between the state and the participant, although the protections can vary state by state. Michigan, for example, has a constitutional provision which protects the benefits accrued to date, while Illinois' constitution has said accrued and future benefits are protected. These kind of specific protections make it impossible to change an employee's retirement benefits after the fact. This rigidity is why unfunded pension liabilities in these states, Illinois in particular, are so alarming, because the law essentially prohibits a legislature to make any changes that could decrease the liability in the future. The law only allows for changes to future employees whose benefits are of course not included in unfunded liability. All right, so lots of different things. This is a great resource. We'll go here. There may be an exception. In Detroit, a federal bankruptcy judge ruled that the city's pension debt was eligible for haircuts, a ruling that stated federal bankruptcy law, where contracts can be impaired, trumped the state law. The ruling is being appealed, but in any case would only apply to cities in bankruptcy. So the judge says, look, man, I don't care what your state law says. The federal law trumps this. And as such, your pension could be subject to a haircut. In most states, 34, court rulings have inferred intent to create such a contract, although when the protection starts and when it entails varies from state to state. In California, court rulings in the 1950s have led to what's called the vested rights doctrine. The state Supreme Court determined that when you essentially enter into public employment, you are told that a term of your compensation has certain benefit when you retire, and that you go into your employment, you're entitled to those benefits you were promised. It's funny, I agree with that, but then it's funny too, because you think, well, then you should be vested automatically, I think. Why do you got to wait like a cliff, what they have, these vested cliff schedules, or, I know it's part of the contract. It's just interesting to say you should be expected to get that money as part of the deferred compensation. I got no qualm with that. I agree with that. It's just as weird how, but we're going to throw vesting. So wouldn't vesting be subject to, say, that violated my rights to the deferred compensation? But be it as it may. Therefore, two state courts in California have been more receptive to the argument that pensions as contracts should not be impaired. A Santa Clara County Superior Court judge ruled last year that San Jose, which implemented voter-approved pension cuts in 2002, was not allowed to do so. Was not allowed under California law to require its employees to contribute an additional 16% of their paychecks toward their pension. The judge did rule that haircuts and the benefit was legal. I have a tough time telling people after the fact, you got to put more in. Because people made a decision on the pension whether or not to join that job or not. So let's just say you're a freaking cop. You're like, all right, I'm going to do this crap little job for 20, 25 years because I'm going to get $45,000 a year at retirement. And then they say, hey, freaking cop guy, Josh, we didn't invest it well. The markets took a bad turn. Biden did this, Trump did that. So we need you to cough up more. You're like, but the reason I joined this crap little job is because of the benefits in the future that were supposed to accrue to me. I don't think it's fair to turn around and say we overpromised. Now we have to rely on you to underdeliver. Or over-deliver. That's not, I signed up for that job under the contractual obligation at that time. I said, look, I do this, you do that. It's like life insurance. I do this, pay the premium, you do this. You pay off the debt or the life insurance when I die. It seems pretty self-explanatory to me. But we overpromised. Well, that's not my fault. I chose this career path based on the promises that you did. I don't get why you'd hold the employee responsible. So you hold the taxpayer responsible? Yes, you do. The taxpayer ultimately going to have to bear the brunt because the taxpayers are who voted for these people to negotiate these contracts to begin with. I'm sorry, but that's the way it works, man. Minnesota's an outlier. It's the only state that protects pensions under the promissory estoppel theory, the protection of a promise even when no contract has been explicitly stated. Only Texas and Indiana still apply the gratuity approach to pensions, and there still are caveats. In Texas, state plans are subject to change, but locally administered plans are protected under the state constitution. In Indiana's Indiana, the gratuity approach is followed only with respect to involuntary or compulsory plans, where the employee has no choice. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot going on there. But so private's PBGC, and we just talked about the maximum you can get there. Public's a whole different ball of worms, can of worms, ball wax, can of worms. Simply because it's up to literally the legislature and then the judges for sure. And but I just got to tell you, if you're going into work thinking, I'll go, how can I say this? I would suggest if you are in the beginning of a career at a government entity that is promising these significant pensions, I would suggest you think twice about that simply because there's no money to pay this stuff. There isn't any for sure. And they might, look, man, the laws can always change against you, right? I mean, hell, we had slaves for heaven's sakes. You know what I'm saying? Slaves! The laws can change against you. So even though what looked good today, man, I'd just be hesitant. I'd be hesitant to bank my career on the promises of a municipality that's hurt for sure. All right, love to hear your thoughts. See you. If you have a pension thing and you know more about this, man, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. All right, thanks, guys.